The West Haven Jane Doe, also known as the New Haven County Jane Doe, identified as Sarah Tatham Abbott, who went by the name of Sally. On April 20th, 1979, in West Haven, Connecticut, which is in New Haven County, partial skeletal remains were found on a property that was just adjacent to Route 34 and Derby Avenue. This was on a property that was owned by New Haven Water Company. In addition to the remains, they found a black lace bra, a West Clocks folding travel alarm, and a hard red case, which you can see here. 2 years and 4 days later, on April 24th, 1981, they would find the missing mandible, and it was located in that same area. But of course, some of the remains were missing. The COD just couldn't be determined. The examination would indicate she was 5'1" to 5'3", or 155 to 160 centimeters. But her weight, her hair color, and her eyes, that was all unknown. Which, of course, in these cases, doesn't help with making any sort of identification. It didn't help that they didn't have any sort of a postmortem interval. They didn't know how long she'd been there. They thought maybe 1 to 8 years. But that, of course, also makes it harder to match up with missing persons. We know now that it was likely 9 years. But it's pretty amazing how close they come with a lot of these. They released that she had periodontal disease, as well as some fillings. They estimated her to be in her teens to early 20s, and the best clue that she had been born missing a lower vertebrae, and likely despite her young age, she had arthritis in her back that probably caused her a bit of pain. They did multiple recreations over the years, but those led nowhere. In the end, the only thing that did lead to a name was Tatham Labs, and the magic that they perform pretty regularly on bones. And in this case, it was bones that were out in the sun for almost a decade. Previously, this wouldn't have yielded DNA, so what they've been able to do has been groundbreaking. We know now that her name was Sarah Tatham Abbott, and that her family called her Sally. Sally was a little bit older than projected, but not by a lot. She was 29 years old when she disappeared in July of 1970. I always feel like I have to pay tribute to the fact that their family went on for 5 decades, trying to figure out what happened to somebody that they loved. In almost all of these stories, there's families behind them just like this. Sally was from the same county where she was found. She went missing from New Haven and was found in West Haven, and the difference is about 5 miles or 8 kilometers. It's clear from the articles that she was reported missing also, and the police were actively looking for her. And in fact, generations of police officers would take up the search for her. So when I say they were actively looking for her, it was a lot of people. So it's crazy that this wasn't matched up. Things were just a lot harder then than they are now, as far as trying to make those matches. Because her bones don't indicate anything definitive, it's impossible to tell if it was accidental or someone did something to her. So this, of course, needs someone to come forward who may possibly know what was going on in her life at the time. Detectives have asked that anyone with information call 203-937-3905. Sally Abbott was a missing person for 53 years and an unidentified Jane Doe for 44. Had she lived, she would be 82 years old today. The Elgin Jane Doe, identified as Kathy Ann Smith. This story starts in Elgin, Texas in 1979. The photo here shows a woman found buried in a cemetery, but it wasn't an official burial. Obviously, those who found her knew she shouldn't have been buried there, but that's obviously only one piece of the puzzle. They knew the person was female and that she was in her mid-teens to 40s, which obviously is not super helpful. They knew she had a slight build, maybe 5 to 5'2", or 152 to 157 centimeters. She was wearing a shirt that said Evian JRS and some blue jeans. They couldn't even pinpoint her COD. Over the years, they tried to promote this case, hoping to find another piece to the puzzle that might help solve it finally. One suggestion was that Henry Lee Lucas was to blame. I know he took blame for a whole lot of things that he didn't do, or should I say took credit. But in this one, she was found nearby to an actual victim that he was found guilty for. So that does lend a little bit of credibility to it. He would, of course, take credit, but as I've been open with before, not very believable. But in this case, he would say that she helped him take her own life. But all that said, this particular monster was a consistent liar. Although in this case, he's labeled as a primary suspect, so I feel like I have to say something. Lucas's MO was finding someone off the side of the road and hitting them with his car. As technology progressed and more opportunities for law enforcement began, they would start reopening a lot of the cases that previously were thought would never be closed. And this was one of those. In 2019, they started from the beginning again and they examined her. Although in this one, they did say that she probably had been hit by a car, but it can't be confirmed. So perhaps that's again another possible for Henry Lee Lucas, since that does fit in with his MO. He claimed a lot, and he's believed to be responsible for just a tiny bit for what he's confessed to. They developed a theory that she'd been hit by a car on the Texas Highway 95 between Bastrop and Elgin in Texas, and that whoever did this buried her. In 2019, they would process her DNA and submit it to CODIS. And this is, of course, the system that's linked in with NamUs, which is the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System. But once it was in there, it led nowhere. But the only way it would ever link to someone is if someone committed a crime in her family, or if somebody from her family submitted their DNA in hopes of getting a match because she'd been missing for a long time. So unfortunately, matches don't often happen this way. That's why they end up having to resort to genetic genealogy. So in 2022, they decided to exhume her once again and do the more expensive route of redoing her DNA for genetic genealogy. And for this, they enlisted Othram Labs. This was funded through DNA Solves, which is the funding arm of Othram, and Project Grace also helped provide funds. Tracing her genealogy was really difficult in this case, as it was with any Jane Doe who'd been adopted. We now know that her name was Kathy Ann Smith, born July 19, 1956, and in fact, she was only 22 when her life was taken. It was really amazing work on their part because Kathy Ann Smith is her adopted name. We know now also that she was not adopted as a baby, but instead was a little bit older than that. And as a result of this genetic genealogy search, now both families know what happened to their loved one. I wish so much I could tell you more about who Kathy was, but the truth is that I don't know. If I find out anything in the meantime, I'll show it on the screen as an editor's note. She was a 22-year-old mother who was just starting out in her life. That child is likely around 44 now, living more than double the life her mother did before the truth came out as to what happened to Kathy. The police are asking that someone come forward with information. Please call the number on the screen if you have any information at all on this case. Kathy Ann Smith went unidentified for 44 years. Had she lived, she would be 68 years old today. Huge thanks for watching all the way to the end, and a big thanks to all of you who consistently like and comment on the videos. The whole dance with YouTube is hard sometimes. Whether you leave a full comment or an emoji, it makes a huge difference. It's a huge push toward the videos being suggested to new people. The next goal is 20,000. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care of yourselves and each other.